Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're diving straight into the Mahabharata for what I can only describe as an absolute clash of titans. We're going to break down a legendary encounter that is somehow terrifying, highly comedic, and totally action-packed all at once. Seriously, you're going to love this. Let's get right into it.
Okay, let me just start off by posing a quick scenario for you. What happens when you sit down and literally eat a monstrous cannibal's dinner right in front of his face? I mean, it sounds like a terrible idea, right? Almost totally suicidal. Well, that is exactly the wild, high-stakes situation we're jumping into today.
Okay, let's dive into this first part, the compassionate promise. Before the fists and uprooted trees start flying everywhere, we kind of need to look at the noble, grounded setup of this narrative.
So, here's the deal. The heroic Pandava brothers are currently living in hiding, right? But there's a local Brahmana who's in deep, deep distress. Why? Because a terrifying cannibalistic Rakshasa named Vaka is demanding human tribute. Yeah. So Kunti, the hero's mother, comes up with this deeply compassionate plan. She decides to send her absolute strongest son, Bhima, to just go out and slay the monster for him. The eldest brother, Yudhishthira, totally approves of this brave act, but he makes one thing very clear: absolute secrecy. I mean, drawing any public attention could completely blow their cover. So it essentially becomes this high-stakes covert operation.
Which brings us to part 2, stealing the monster's feast. And oh man, the tone shifts so rapidly here as Bhima actually heads out into the woods.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how the source text describes the monster waiting out in those woods. I mean, the sensory details are just incredibly vivid. Vaka is this creature with a massive body and literally earth-trembling strength. He's got glowing red eyes, a fiery red beard, and red hair. Picture this: a terrifying mouth that opens all the way from ear to ear, framed by ears straight as arrows, and this really grim visage with a deeply furrowed, three-lined forehead. You can basically feel the sheer terror this nightmare of a creature induces just by hearing about him. So how exactly does our hero, Bhima, handle walking right into the lair of this literal monster? Well, he doesn't set a trap, he doesn't ambush him from the shadows. No, instead, Bhima just steps right up, pressing deep into the earth with his massive physical presence, loudly calls out Vaka's name, and then he just casually starts chowing down on the monster's food. I mean, the sheer audacity of this move is absolutely off the charts. He is literally ringing the dinner bell and then eating the dinner himself. Naturally, the monster is completely incensed. The text describes Vaka expanding his glowing red eyes and biting his nether lip in absolute fury before booming out, "Who is this fool who, desiring to go to the abode of Yama, eateth in my very sight the food intended for me?" I mean, Vaka simply cannot fathom this level of disrespect happening right in his own front yard. No way.
And that leads us to phase 3, the ignored cannibal. This part is just fascinating because we get a total masterclass in psychological warfare. We see this frantic, almost ridiculous escalation of aggression from the monster. Vaka utters a frightful yell, charges with upraised arms, and strikes a heavy, massive blow directly to Bhima's back. And what is Bhima doing during all this chaotic raging? He just smiles in derision and keeps on chewing his food. The comedic contrast here is brilliant. You've got this giant, ear-to-ear grinning demon throwing a massive violent tantrum against the hero who's basically just annoyed that his lunch is being interrupted. So the crucial point here is that Bhima averts his face and never even looks up. Just think about the sheer absurdity of that for a second. He takes a massive two-armed strike to the back from a superpowered cannibal, casts a single dismissive glance, and goes right back to eating. By totally ignoring him, Bhima completely strips Vaka of his primary weapon, which is the power to inflict terror.
Moving on to part 4, the clash of the trees. The psychological warfare is officially over, mostly just because the food finally runs out. And this brilliantly illustrates the core theme of our explainer today: composure versus chaos. On one hand, you have Vaka. He's inflamed with wrath, tearing up giant trees, raging frantically, basically the pure embodiment of chaos. But on the other hand, you have Bhima. He has leisurely eaten his food, washed himself, and is just standing there, cheerfully smiling. Total, absolute composure. So as Vaka hurls the very first massive, uprooted tree right at his head, Bhima just smiles and casually touches it with his left hand.
From there, the battle completely explodes. Vaka hurls the first tree. Bhima effortlessly catches it. Then the gloves come off.
Both titans begin tearing up and hurling trees with such explosive force that the entire region is left totally destitute of nature, just flattened. Finally, with all the projectile weapons gone, Vaka springs forward and seizes Bhima in close combat. The ultimate wrestling match begins.
All right, Section 5, Breaking the Rakshasa. I want to slow the pacing down a bit right here, because the source text specifically grounds this fight in a brutal, exhausting physical reality.
This becomes a grinding battle of sheer endurance. They are violently dragging each other back and forth, and pretty soon, the cannibal is overcome with great fatigue. The very earth is trembling from their exerted strength. Any large surrounding trees that are left are just breaking into pieces under their bodies. But the key takeaway here is Vaka's fatigue. You see, his chaotic emotional rage is a terrible fuel source that burns out really rapidly. It completely proves that his frenzy is totally futile against Bhima's controlled, composed power.
Once Vaka is deeply fatigued, Bhima makes his move with a methodical, devastating hold. First, he presses the fatigued monster down to the earth. Then, he places one knee squarely on the middle of Vaka's back. He seizes the monster's neck with his right hand, grabs his waistcloth with his left, and then bends the giant double with incredible force. It is a precise, overwhelming display of physical dominance.
And the result is completely uncompromising. The monster roars frightfully as he is bent backward, vomiting blood upon Bhima's knee. It's a really brutal, visceral end to Vaka's entire reign of terror. By utilizing his immense strength in such a composed, highly targeted manner, Bhima breaks the monster and secures the town's safety for good.
Which brings us to a pretty powerful realization. Bhima defeated a monster not just with physical strength, but by utterly refusing to match its chaotic energy. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with this question. What cannibals in your own life, whether they're stressful situations, difficult people, or even internal anxieties, could you defeat simply by keeping your composure? Let the chaos exhaust itself while you just sit back and enjoy your meal. Thanks so much for joining me to explore this epic text today, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.